conference. So thank you very much. And first author that I'm going to introduce is Mr. Gabe Del Aragon and his wife, Kiara Del Aragon. And then second on the list is Christiana Kahakavila. Next is Mr. David Del Rocco. And then the last, but certainly not least of the three, is Gail Omoto, and then Jan and Judy Dill.
So each author will have about 10 minutes. We're going to start with the Del Aragon duo.
Aloha kako. As stated before, I'm Gabriel Del Aragon, and this is my lovely wife, Kiara. And the reason why we're a duo is because we started Del Aragon as a self-publishing business to tell stories. One of the main things in our culture here in Hawaii is storytelling, which is fantastic. While we're being here with the school libraries conference here to share what we have to offer with the rest of the state, hopefully. I just want to talk about a little bit of my history and the reason why I started writing stories. So when I was a kid, I didn't really have many things to grab my attention, and it didn't hook me, because I couldn't really relate to the stories that were being told back in the 80s. So I didn't have anything that I could see myself in. So I gravitated more towards bears, Berenstain Bears, Curious George, things like that, more fantasy, more fictional. And I realized that I had a lot, over the years, I accumulated a lot of information throughout just being raised in Hawaii, being raised by Kanaka Maoli, my family is swine, and also from the stories I'd hear from my friends, things that I learned from work. And I decided to take all this information and use it to create my own fictional tale to tell about Hawaii. What fascinated me growing up were stories like that, stories of fiction, stories of Greek mythology. So one of the great things about Hawaii is we have our own akua. So Pele, Ku, Lono, Kanamoa, and other Kamapua'a, lesser known ones. And I decided that I wanted to delve into those kinds of histories. And we also have, as families in Hawaii, we have aumakua. And aumakua are family guardians that protect us in case we need, a little nudge or a little words of wisdom, ho'ailona, or symbols to help us to move through our daily life. And so I'm naming my stories the Aumakua Anthology. And what I'm doing is each story is dedicated to a particular aumakua. So my first story is called Pokani of Hemalelebe, and this one is actually a romance, a love story. The middle one, you can see that easier. So that's actually a romance story based on the Kani o Kapo. And so Kani o Kapo starts my anthology because that is how we have aumakua today. And so the commingling of people and spirits create aumakua. And during this story, because it's a romance, a young lady meets with a Kani o Kapo, and they start a relationship together. And I'm gonna save it, but basically, I don't want you guys to feel like, this is not that kind of stories we want to be sharing with children. But for me, I've been working for the past decade or so at an elementary school. And we used to do these things after school called kolea clubs. And because I was a paranormal investigator before that, I had a lot of ghost stories to share with my students. And so I created this club so I could talk about these interesting things that happened. And they didn't have all these stories to tell me, and they tell me, that's the kind of stuff I get at my house too, mister. Yeah. And so these are kind of the things that I wanted to create so other people can understand how rich, how truly rich Hawaii is. Yeah. So the Pokane is about the creation of the Aumakua, or at least it talks about the creation of Aumakua. And then it moves into the second book, Ghana, which is Mo'oahine of Makalike Bridge. And that actually talks about an Aumakua. So we have Mo'o, we have Olohe, which are dog-headed beasts that used to fight alongside Kaikili on Maui. So all these things are inside my book. It's rich with all these things that I've learned and picked up from my family, as well as history of going to school and learning about Hawaiian culture as well. But that story is more of a suspense thriller. So it's a kind of like a, well, what's going to happen next kind of story. It's more action. And the final story, which actually we just had release in September. This one came out at the end of September. Is about the Huaka'ipo, or the Night Marchers. Okay? So they're the defenders of the Hawaiian archipelago. They walk the ridges and valleys as well as the plains and fronts of the ocean side to do what? Do we really know? Well, if you read my book, you can find out what my interpretation of what it could be. So getting into is why we decided to go self-publish. One of the things that I knew growing up was how difficult it was to get published, first of all. And I know that landscape has changed a lot over the years. But I also realized that I wanted to keep my stories as true as possible to what I intended to share. And a lot of it has to come down to, it's like you look at the titles and that's not typical, right? You don't usually see difficult Hawaiian words in a title of a story because you want to grab readers, you want to make sure it sells. And mine, I'd like them to sell, that's true. But what I'd also like to is I'd like to perpetuate the Olelo, keep the language going, put it into every day, If you learn a new Hawaiian word, stick it in where an English word would be, just kind of throw it in. If you learn it, throw it in there. So that's kind of like the point of my titles, is to kind of inspire continuing Olelo Hawaii. Yeah, so the reason for self-publishing is to keep it as true as possible as we can to our stories and to what I need to say, as well as the direction of my story. Now, this anthology, I'm planning on going on for at least a dozen more books, okay? Because there's so much to talk about, yeah. And there's only so much time that you can, in one story, kind of go into each thing. And so my playground, or where I have my stories taking place, is a place called Ainapau. Okay, and Ainapau is an island that is south of the Big Island. So you guys don't know about it. But I know. It's a secret. Yeah, there's this thing that's going to happen in the story later on down the line. It'll explain it. But basically, I decided to create a fictional island to have my fictional characters play on it. So they don't just stay there. They travel between Oahu, Kauai, Maui, and all the different islands. They do. But I decided to create a playground so that all my characters could create fantastical tales. Not just to give history and to give culture, but also to give a fantastic, like, spooky tale. A lot of my stories are going to be dealing in paranormal, is what we call paranormal, right? But in actuality, this stuff, you look back at it maybe a couple thousand years ago, it wasn't so paranormal, it was normal. Things like this happen all the time. And so now when I tell these kids these stories, especially about the Mo'oahine, they're like, oh, no way, no such thing as a lizard person still live inside the valleys and stuff. And I said, no, there are. In fact, we had a custodian, Mr. John. He moved to Nanakuli or something. But he was telling me when he was young, he used to go swim inside the catchment, the reservoir in the back where he grew up. And he used to get this really weird feeling when he used to go swim. He's like, hey, something watching us. But this older lady that used to take him to school every morning with her kids told him, hey, where you guys go after school? And he says, oh, we go swim down the reservoir. And he says, you better be careful. Because apparently her great-grandmother had a child, and it was a mo'o. And when the thing came of age, it released itself into the wild and lives back by the reservoir. So I was like, oh, bro. Pretty trippy. And the only reason why he told me was because I was walking around my school holding my book. And he was like, hey, what is that? So I showed it to him, and he got the chicken skin. He looked at it and said, hey, I gotta tell you this story. So this encourages people to talk more about our culture, or where we live here in these islands, yeah? Oh, you still get time? Oh.
Kiara, you're also writing a book. Were you going to mention that?
Oh, we can mention it.
Awesome.
So my job was to edit and to encourage him to write his stories because he's always had so many stories to tell. And I'm a reader. I'm an avid reader. My whole family, well, except for my sister. That's okay. We love reading. And so I could never understand why he just hated reading. So I told him, why don't you just write a book then? Write what you want to read. And so he finally did, and now I can't make him stop. But what's cool is that he shared these books with kids at our school, and he's gotten kids, 5th graders, maybe 4th graders, to be inspired to read. So we're like, said, see, we just needed more authors like you. But anyway, I am working on a book for P4C. Do you guys know what P4C is? Philosophy for Children. So I've been working on that book for a long time, and I'm just waiting for my illustrator to illustrate it. And hopefully maybe we can get it out before the next school year so that we can start the year with P4C. So he's also illustrated these covers as well.
Yeah, so if I didn't make it clear, I just quit at Enchanted Lake Elementary this past year. I was the art instructor, and unfortunately, doing that is fun. I love teaching art. I love art. That's my passion. But unfortunately, it was killing so much of my time. When I get home, I'd be exhausted. You know, the kids always want, and we're always giving. And so by the time it comes down to us, it makes it harder to move forward. And I felt like. Write more books, and of course help her illustrate her story. And if we didn't, make side trips and go different places, then I could get that done. But no, it's an excuse. Now that I have free time, now that I've decided to put the teaching on hold, I can actually do for myself, start learning more about what I need to learn about so that my books can become even more polished and better. So yeah. Anything else you want to add? Is that it? So thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate it.
After the panel discussion, because he will be on the side over here with his books if you want to come take a look at the books or talk story with him. I think you can even purchase the books if you're interested. I've read all 3. Now I know where you got that idea from. You said it's the other way around, but you must have got that from John. That story is happened in the book. I'll give it to you. Okay, so we have our second author presentation. Please come on up.
Aloha kako. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for taking the time to be here. I'm Christiana Kahakawila, and I started my career as a they say adult literary. I always think the adult sounds like it's a bodice ripper or something, but so this is Paradise. It's a collection of short stories set in and about contemporary Hawaii. It was published back in 2013. And a few years back, right before the pandemic actually, I was pregnant, and I was thinking a lot about kids and stories for them, and the stories I grew up with and the ones I wished what they were saying, the ones I wished I had grown up with. And I will let you in on a secret. When I was in middle school, the superpower I wanted, other kids wanted to fly and breathe underwater, and I really just wanted to know what boys were thinking. I really wanted to read their minds. You know I don't want to, but then I did. Anyway, so Clairvoyance is about a girl named Clara. She lives on North Shore with her tutu, and her dad's taken a job in Arizona, and her mom's with the military and stationed up in Alaska. And she has a falling out with her best friend, Leo, and she feels pretty alone. And she wishes on an umeke, this family heirloom, that there's a story behind, that she could just know what Leo, heck, what all boys were thinking. And guess what? She wakes up the next day, and she's hearing all kinds of voices and all kinds of things. So that kicks off the story. The story's so much about figuring out who you are and where you're from and what home is or who home is. And there's a fair amount of music woven into, because I grew up in a family that liked to play music. So that's a story of clairvoyance, or at least the setup of it. And I think we sort of say it's for, 8 to 12 is kind of the age range. But yeah, so that's kind of the grouping. It's been such a special book to share with students, and I know Diane's here, I got to share with her students. I've been to other school visits and have some coming up. It's awesome to get an email from like a young reader in Boston, and to have her say her parents recently went through a divorce, and this book helped her kind of start to figure out who her people were in school when she was feeling alone. But obviously it's extra special here when kids come up and they'll be like, I live above the food land on North Shore, so I'm like Clara's neighbor. I'm like, yeah, you're basically Clara's neighbor. That sounds great. I think the other thing that I sort of love about being able to talk about this book with kids is that kids, especially middle schoolers, they tell you the truth. And I did a lot of careful research for the book, and I wanted to get the Mo'olelo right. And every time I do a school visit, some kiddo will say to me, Auntie, we don't ride the bus that much, because the kids in this book ride the bus. And I was like, yeah, that was a plot point, and I that's true. And I think it's just funny, they're so honest with you. They'll let you know. I just want to point out a few things on the cover, because I think they're kind of special, but there's an Eva up there flying, there's the ukulele down here, there's Clara in the middle, and there's Leo on the side, and then on the other side is Pua. And Pua is kind of a new friend in Clara's life, and she's moved to the islands from Seattle. And she's also trying to find their way. And really all three kids are trying to find their way, which is, a lot of the experience of being in middle school. I'm going to end there. I'm going to keep it sort of short and sweet. I will say Clairvoyance is it's been nominated for a Nene Award, which is so special to me, so I had to say it. And it recently was chosen as an honor book for the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association, and that was pretty cool. They had a big celebration in Philadelphia for that selection of books, and so I check out all the selections from there. Okay, thanks so much.
So we have author number 3. Please come up.
Aloha kako. I was a former teacher and also former librarian. This is really low. That's better. And anyway, as a former teacher and former librarian, I have been to many, many conferences, and I recognize that the breakout session after lunch is deadly. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand and take a good stretch right now. So I'll put you to sleep. You'll thank me later. Take a good stretch. Is that better? Okay, thank you. Bye. Okay. Thanks. So I'm Dave Del Rocco, and like I said, former teacher, former librarian, recently retired. And yeah, I highly recommend it. But here's the funny thing about retirement, nature abhors a vacuum, so I've gotten really, really busy with so many things. What happened was, many years ago, I was doing translations for the Department of Education for the immersion schools. I was translating children's books from English to Hawaiian. I think I did about 13 of them or so. And then somehow, I don't even know how they got in touch with me, Beach House Publishing contacted me and said, would you be willing to translate other books for us? And so I did. And then just about 2 years ago, Jane Gillespie, I don't know if you know her, she's the publisher at Beach House, she's awesome. she just emailed me and said, how would you like to write a series of children's biographies about people from Hawaii? Because there's really nothing like that. Yeah, and she thought it was very important. And my first question was, can they be in the English language? And obviously we get a broader audience that way. So yeah, she said yes in English, and I said yeah, sure. And then my second question was, can I wait till I'm retired? And she said no, absolutely not. So, but Jane's great, and so I did the first 2 books while I was still working. And there they are. The first book is Patsy Mink, and all 3 of these people are, well, obviously from Hawaii, but also super influential, right? So I chose Patsy Mink first. Jane had given me a list of about 25 names I could pick from, and she was letting me do whatever I wanted to, which I thought was great. And then I chose Mary Kavena Pukui second, and just in case you don't know, I worked at Punahou until last year, and our new learning commons is named after her because she worked there in the 1930s. And for those of us who have studied Olelo Hawaii, she is like at the top of the list of people who you respect for all that she did for the Hawaiian language. And then Iriai Kau was the third book, which came out fairly recently. And then the fourth one I finished, however, the illustrator has not yet. And I want to point out that these books sell because of the illustrator. Storm Kano is awesome. I like the Eddie, look at that cover, it's just so engaging. But anyway, the fourth one, who are my hula dancers? Okay, at least one. And even if not, if you've ever watched Merry Monarch, you must know the name Auntie Edith Kanaka Ole. The stadium in Hilo is named after her. So she was my fourth one. And I finished it months ago, and I asked Jane, is it going to come out like soon? And she said, next year. So the publishing world can be slow. Yeah, that's a fact of life. But anyway. And then we were talking about the fifth person, and we're still not sure because the fourth one is still being worked on. But she wants this Wayfinder series to continue, and I do as well. I think it fills a niche in children's books that we don't have. And when she first told me about it, she said ages 4 to 9. And I thought, I don't know many 4-year-olds who will read a biography. So when people ask me, what grade or what ages, I tell them kindergarten to 3rd grade. But really, a lot of my adult friends are liking them because, they get pictures and they might know who the people are, but they don't know anything about them. Like for instance, everybody knows about Patsy Mink with Title IX, right? Which was one of her great accomplishments. But there were so many other things, like the fact that nobody would take her seriously because she was a woman. Yeah, and a lot of stuff that she had to fight against. And then Mary Kavena Pukui, I don't want to ruin it if you read the book, but she had a pet goat named Nancy. And that's the kind of thing I look for when I'm researching, like what would a kid find interesting? And it turns out Nancy did not like boys, so she would butt them whenever she saw a boy near Mary or Kavena. Yeah, anyway, it's been a real interesting experience. And like I said, I'm happy to do it, but I can't take credit for the original idea because it was Jane's, and I was just really, really glad. We talked about the ali'i, and she said she's right, there's so many books about the ali'i already, many of them are already children's books. But the one person I really would like to do who is an ali'i, where there is no children's book, is Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalana, because there's really nothing about him for kids. But I'm sort of, finagling with her about that. Also, here's the weird thing. Out of the 4 books I've already written, 3 of them have US coins made of them. Everybody except Eddie. But all 3 of the women, there's already coins from the US Mint about all 3 of them. So that's just kind of a weird coincidence. And as far as, I don't know what else do I need to tell them. I guess we'll probably meet with people later, but that's pretty much all I wanted to share about how I got started, and hopefully it's going to continue. But also looking for suggestions. If you know somebody that you think we should do, I'd be happy to pass that by my publisher. Okay, mahalo. Aloha.
We have one more trio on our panel, and I'm going to bring the mic down to them. But let's welcome our final.
Oh no, I'm Jan Dill. I'm, as my friend said, you're the chief mischief maker, because I'm always in trouble. And that's basically how this whole process started. About 26 years ago, I was blessed to start a little foundation called Partners in Development Foundation. And then I was stunned, I think it was about 2002, by a little article in the paper that said half of the kids that come to kindergarten can't count to 5 in any language. And I thought, my goodness, what are we doing as a community to allow this to happen? And in my little mongoose mind, I knew that the majority of those kids were Hawaiian. And being Hawaiian, I was very broken by that. So we started a little program, and Gail is one of the founders of the program called 220 Traveling Preschool. In other words, it was the thought was that there are many places, rural places, poor places, where families can't afford or access preschool. And so the kids come to kindergarten behind the 8 ball, and they stay behind the 8 ball their whole career in school. So we decided we'd take the preschool out to, and as we did this over the years, we touched 30,000 kids and their parents with free preschool. And as we started, I was saying, here are these poor families that have no really resources at home. So what are they going to do? Whatever the kid learns in school, it's going to be hard. So we made it, caregivers had to come with the kids. And then I started thinking, well, let's start and do some stories, some books, because I was struck by the fact that back then it was see, spot, jump, those kinds of things were the things that the young kids had. There were no signs of the local culture in the resources that the young children were exposed to. So our first book was Kaidiopi, and the concept was to integrate Hawaiian culture with resources for the family to teach the child and prepare them for success in school. So that's what we did, and I was very blessed by having Gail Moro as the main writer, and my wife, who was a designated adult. And so she kept us all in line, and was a great editor. So I'll turn it over to Gail, and she'll give you the real story.
Aloha, it's an honor to be here today and have this chance to share with you. So stand up. I get to share with you about our writing process in the hopes that you will write your stories too. But we had a grant as part of Partners in Development Foundation. We received a grant to run the 220 Traveling Preschool, and part of the grant we were to develop educational materials. Didn't know what that would look like yet, but we knew we would do it. And one day when I was sitting in Jan's office, he said, "We ought to write a story about the opihi." Then he proceeded to tell me the background of his experience with cultivating opihi when he worked at Oceanic Institute. And he said we would put them in these large containers and give them all this seaweed, and they grew, but they were flat. They didn't have their point. Then they realized that out in the ocean, in nature, the opihi are on the rock, they're struck by the waves, and when the waves hit, they have to cling, and when they cling, they build their muscles, and that's how they get the point. And he said, that would be a great story about perseverance. And I was like, ooh, okay. Never written a story before, but I always wanted to. I love children's books, and so I said, okay, this is my chance. Maybe we'll get to write a story. And so it started once upon a time. I ended up Molokai because that's where I grew up. So the West End, there was a bit of opihi, and I'm like, oh gosh, okay, wrote and rewrote, it just wasn't happening. And one night, my youngest was 4 years old, and I read her a Jez Alvaro story. You know Jez Alvaro, my friend Bear? Well, anyway, she kept saying, again, Mom, again. And it's that rhyming, and I loved reading it to her. So I said, hey, maybe we can take a, rhyming on this story. And so we did, and it all came together. After a lot of writing and rewriting and meeting together, and it was fun. Just working with Jan and Judy was a blessing, and we had a lot of laughs because, we would do nonsense rhymes, but no, that's not it. But, so that was kind of the opihi, and I just wanted to share a little bit about the thought. Okay, the first thing we do when we write a book is the message. So the first one was perseverance. For Melly the Crab, it was letting others be first. So that was kind. For Melly, okay, letting others be first. For Peely the Eva Bird, it was being content with what you have. That's Peely, sorry. Should have given it to Judy. Over the Hay, it was bullying. It was a story about bullying. Noah the Puhi was about letting go, forgiveness. Sorry guys. Moana the Honu was working together, cooperating with others to get a task done. Maka the Tree Snail was you're never too small to do anything. And then the recent one, Leia the Happy Face Spider, was we wanted to portray, just bring the focus on trauma and how that's part of all of our lives, and about how trauma-informed care practices can really make a difference. So that's Leia. So that was the message. And then I'll just talk a little bit about this. So we used the happy face spider because that's when the research came, and we found out that so happy face spiders, they have a happy face, and a lot of times we may be looking happy outside but crying and hurting inside. So the other reason we use the happy face spiders because we found out that mother happy face spiders are only 1% of the spider population in the world who care for their young until they can hunt on their own. So about 100 days. The rest of the spiders, you're born and you're on your own. So we wanted, we portrayed the nurturing in this story. And then it was just again writing, rewriting, getting together. Then taking it to the illustrator, who happened to be my husband, and he would do character design and thumbnail sketches, then storyboards, and he'd show it. So there was a lot of back and forth with the illustrator. And when it was finally done, then we'd send it to our graphic designer, Faye Takushi, who did a wonderful job laying it out. Then we did a self-publishing, Partners in Development, also did self-publishing through Penmar, Hawaii. They're a print broker, and they sent the books overseas. But Judy's going to talk a little bit more, but just to wrap it up, I wanted to encourage you to tell you why you should write books. Ask yourself, what experiences, messages do I want to share? And are available educational materials or stories meeting the needs of my students? And what needs to be done to fill this need? And how can it be presented in storybook form so it will be appealing? And can it be mass produced to reach a broader audience beyond your classroom? And when you talk about what you should write or where you should start, again, just read the great children's books. Look about what makes them appealing. Write, rewrite, knowing your audience, and collaborate with others to write. In this instance, it worked really well, and work with someone who can edit your work. And in closing, this quote from NEYC says, children need access to books that reflect their own race, culture, experiences, and contexts, and that's how they thrive. So thank you, and I'm going to hand it over to Judy, who's going to talk a little bit more.
Well, I am definitely the odd man out because my background is teaching upper level mathematics and statistics. Never dreamed of writing a book, never wanted to write a book. I actually hope we're done, but anyway. Married 57 years to this guy, and I'm dragged into so many things. But Jan is the visionary. And I actually used to stop off at his office, and all the people who worked for him would gather around me before I got to his office and say, can you tell him not to have any more ideas? But he shared with me early on that growing up for him, it was not really positive to be Hawaiian. And he didn't want these children in the Tutu and Me program to feel shame about being Hawaiian. So that started the cultural portion of the books. And Gail is very modest. She is so gifted in putting things in rhyme. I asked her why, Gail, why does it have to rhyme? She said, because that readies them for reading. She has degrees in early childhood education. So, and I noticed, I reviewed all the books this morning, that she chose words, English vocabulary, that expanded the vocabulary of these little ones. And our aim is probably preschool, but the elementary school loves them too. And in each book, we have the Hawaiian character trait. Perseverance was in Kai the Opihi, and that's Ho'omau. And then I know they could say the rest of them, but I can't. But always something that characterized the Hawaiian culture and that they could grasp onto. Also, culturally, I don't know, can you find Tutu in here? Oh, you have it? Oh, yeah. Gail's wonderful husband is such an incredible artist, and every time the poor sea creature who had a problem would go to his kupuna, which is part of the culture, but the kupuna is a huge rendition of the little opihi or whatever. Yeah, yeah. So this is the tutu crab, and we owe so much to Garrett because, yeah, and here's the, let me hold it up high, the tutu opihi. So never knew they got that big, but. But our emphasis as the books progressed was for a little bit older child, maybe in early elementary, and we started dealing with more mature problems like the bullying that Gail mentioned, and our Hei, who has 2 sets of teeth, and if it bites a fish, you can't pull it out, and it's about holding on to grudges and bitterness. And Puhi, sorry, see, I didn't grow up here, it was Puhi. But things that the kids can relate to, but what they feel bullied, they feel angry, they feel greedy, they don't want to share their toys. That was Pili, the Eva bird, who stole things and kept them in her nest and wouldn't let anyone else know what she had. So in every book, there is a scientific explanation for what we showed about the character. There is also the characteristic that we wanted to portray. But later on, as Gail mentioned, trauma, this is in the more recent books, but there are teaching helps in the back of each book, and there's a glossary for pronunciation and definition of Hawaiian words that we used. And just teaching helps and how to speak to children about trauma and how to take certain pages in the book and ask questions of the child to see what they're thinking. So I wanted to show you the Melee book, because as Gail said, we, Partners in Development, got grants from the Federal Department of Education. And when they saw some of the books, Jan was contacted by the head of the Department of Education for the United States and said, would you please send over a case of Melly the Crab, which is about servant leadership, because what Jan used scientifically was that if a crab is in a bucket, it's caught in a bucket, it can climb out. But if there's more than one, the others pull that one back. And in 1998, I did take a job in DC for 3 years, and I learned that the work culture there could not be farther from the work culture in Hawaii, where we're gracious and caring and kind to each other. It's called Inside the Beltway Mentality. And the highway, the belt that goes around the whole capital area, it's ruthless. It's just cutthroat. You stab each other in the back. You don't want that person to get ahead. So that was the theme of this book, and she said, I'm going to use these to train my staff. So she asked for a case of books. But these books, we never marketed them. I kept saying to Jan, you should put them in the hotels or do something. And he goes, no, I'm running a nonprofit. I'm not going to do that. All the proceeds go to Partners in Development. But the books are in Connecticut in a grocery store owned by his college roommate from years ago. They're in all the little towns that our grandchildren have lived in the libraries there. So they're sprinkled around, but we've never really tried to market them. We don't know how to do that. So anyway, I hope you can enjoy them. We think the kids will.
I want to thank all of you for all you do. You know, I don't think we, as just the public, give you as much recognition as you deserve. You are really on the front line of creating the next generation. And that's a big responsibility. And it's a tough responsibility. And so I thank you all for doing it. And we trust that some of the books that you've seen today can be resources to help you in that challenge. You know, so I'll stop so I won't get into trouble.
I forgot to add one thing. What was my role? I was more of an editor. So I would work with the meter and the grammar and even some of the plot, but I was not key in any way. Gail was.
Thank you very much. Let's give our panel a round of applause. So now it's time to put them on the spot. This is our section where we have a few minutes for questions for our panel. So we'll start with you guys if you have any questions to ask any of the members of the panel. Okay, please.
I have one for all. Do you all have like websites that we can look at your and order from your websites?
You guys want to go first? You can check out their books now with Best Press, and if you want to find out more information, Dipna can help you with ordering if you're interested. I didn't see a website. Do you guys have one?
They're found under Native Books. I'm looking at it.
Oh, Native Books.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also at Partners in Development.
Partners in Development. .org.
Foundation.
Unfortunately for us, I know it's a big no-no to stay in the library space, but we are on Amazon. That was the one place that we knew how to do our self-publishing. We are going to expand to, what is that other one called? Well, we're going to get our books for the libraries to actually accept them. I can't remember the name off the top of my head because we've only just started this a year and a half ago. So this is very, very new for us, and we got the whole marketing thing as well that we need to learn too. So we do have it on Amazon. We do have an author page as well.
Oh, so for me, the books are available on Mutual's website, Mutual Publishing.
And I do have an author website. It's my name, ChristianaKahakawila.com. And next month, there will be added resources, discussion prompts for one, and then fun writing prompts will be the other.
Good question. Thank you. Anyone else? Who wants to go first?
Do you charge for doing book talks or author visits to school? Because I know some people do and some people don't.
Hold that thought. Can I answer that for you guys? Well, part of it. So part of my presentation too, I wanted to share is some of the authors' presentations that I've done at my school. And I can answer that for some general people, and then you guys can tell us your thoughts. I had author Alice Guild. She wrote a story about the Chief's Cloak. Unfortunately, she passed away since writing it. She started her career writing in her 80s. So she wrote about 2 or 3 books, but it was kind of like, she was telling stories just like Gabe, and they told her, Grandma, just write it down already. So that was a good one. She didn't charge. She was just promoting it. She just loved sharing and loved coming to schools. Zoe wrote a book. She was a sixth grader at our elementary school. And she wrote Papa Says Shaka. And she does a wonderful presentation for schools where she talks about the writing process and how it took her to get published. We have her book out for you to look at too. She didn't charge, but what I try to do is sell the books, like I do a pre-sale of the books. I have the books available when I have my parent nights as well, so I try to give them business that way. I just had Leilani Blessed and Grateful, Greg and Alan, for a parent night we had connected to my book fair. I try to give them, if besides the business too, is I think it's called an honorarium. Like they won't ask for money, but you can give them a gift. So if I have some money in my library account, I'll try to give them. I think I've tried anywhere from $50 to $150 for my presenters. Most of them are all more than willing to not charge because it's a school event and because we're selling their books. So that one was a lot of fun. That was a new one. We had Tammy Yee. She's wonderful. She's from Kaneohe. Just in case, I'm from Kaneohe too. She apparently turns out to be my neighbor. She wrote Brave Mrs. Sato and a ton of other books. Hopefully we have some more of hers for you to look at. She's great. I gave her an honorarium. Now I'm trying to remember. I tried to base it on the hours, how long they stayed. So that's why it was 50 to 100 depending on the activity. And then I was lucky to get Shar to Yosoa before she became famous. Now she's probably really hard to get, but she wrote a book called Punky Aloha. I think we have that one too, maybe next door. She was wonderful, and I think I gave her like a gift or something. It was like my first time, I didn't really know what to do. I always ask ahead of time though, and then I say, you know, we're a poor public school. And then they go, oh, okay. That usually works. Gabe has done some storytelling for me as well. He's wonderful for spooky stories. So he comes to Halloween and we make the library really dark and he lights like a little candle and then he gets the kids all scared. He shares some stories and they, It was funny, it started really packed. And then first story, the kids would leave. Next story, the kids would leave. They're like,
Parents stayed.
so that was kind of, my experience was with that. Now it's your turn to answer the questions. Do you guys do presentations? And what do you charge?
No charge. I love reading to children, so I've gone out and we did a parent night at Doty School, and I think at Hawai'i. Yeah, just recently. But yeah, no, if people ask and if we can work it in the schedule, I'll go out and read. I don't mind. And Judy always run. Welcome to join me.
I can't read. All I can do is allow, tough story. So my wife will.
Actually, we're reading, Gail's reading Saturday at Ward Center, but we don't do this often. I don't even consider that I'm here as an author, so, but yeah, we're very happy to come help you out.
Would you guys be willing to do virtual presentations? Because I'm from Canada, so we can fly you there.
You guys too.
Sure.
You come as a group. You guys got to stay together. You're all three in on this.
Three Stooges.
I'll take that. We can move it around. Sure. Okay.
For me, as long as I have time and the people who want me to come and talk, give me enough time to prep. I'm happy to do it, just to do it. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll move it over this way.
Yeah, I don't charge for school visits. I'm going to Kamehameha next month, and entertaining the third graders apparently. But as a storyteller, I'm under contract with the University of Hawaii, and so that has to be arranged through them, which is separate from the writing.
It depends. For public schools, it's very different. So I will just say, be in touch with me. I think it's, I charge for no. I charge you, Alani. I do believe in honoraria, and I do that as someone who also books speakers to come for my students. But I think the gesture matters, and I think the support of the book matters. And so I want to go into a room where a handful at least, but maybe more than that, of the kids know the book, where it's been talked about, it's been read. It doesn't have to be all the classrooms, or maybe it's the club on campus, or maybe it's the librarian who's enthusiastic. Because then I'm going into a room and the kids have questions, and we're having fun, we're talking story. And so I might read a little bit to get into it, and so the kids who haven't read the book can hear it. But then there's also that energy there. And I think for me, when I go in and no one has read it, or no one knows who I am, then the energy's different. So I think I'm more looking for, some of those kids are familiar, you've introduced it, we're coming into this together, and then we're gonna have a great time, is it? So that's sort of what I'm thinking about.
That's a good question. Do we have one more? Did you want to ask?
Mine was about writing. I was just curious, like, what platform program that you use to sort of like, write your book, to process and sort of the rough draft part of it.
For a particular person or all of them?
I'm just in general.
Okay, let's start here then, since you have the mic.
Oh yeah, I just use Word. I also handwrite. I handwrite everything first, and then it goes to Word. I know, I'm not giving you any answers.
I also use Word, and I don't handwrite it. But the publisher is also my editor. So, I send it to her and she cleans up whatever she doesn't care for. So, yeah.
The next one goes to Kiara. We know she's the editor.
Oh yeah, we do use Word. Pages, which is Word, right? For Mac.
In the beginning, I was using my phone to text her information and emails and whatnot, so.
Still.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay, goes over to Judy.
It goes to Gail.
Okay.
Any way you can write it, just write it.
Yeah, it's Word. But I do have a friend in the rhyme dictionary. That's very helpful. Online, when you can't generate the rhyme, look for all the words there. But the rhyme dictionary is great.
All right, very nice job. I was nervous that no one was going to ask a question, so I used AI to develop some questions. So I'm going to have you guys pick them up. They're really good questions. Oh, sorry.
Hi, so this is so awesome. In Partners in Development, you guys are famous. My library just ran something at White and I gave away a free children's book, and you guys actually donated books to us, and they loved it. I just have a question for everybody for the writing stuff. I'm trying to write a children's book right now. I'm editing it myself. So what do you do when you have like a manuscript ready? You just go find kids and you're like, does this sound good? You know what I mean? So that it's good and pacing and like you guys have touched upon. How do you do that?
Well, you start with somebody that can write, like Gail, and somebody that has an idea from time to time, and sometimes that's me. And then you get an adult, like my wife, to go through it and help you kind of bring it into a form that really makes sense. So I think the concept of communal writing is great, especially for children's books, because you get so many different perspectives on what kids are thinking and what things are interesting for them. And so I would urge you to get all your neighbors and get to see if you can recruit them as part of your team. Especially people that have the right heart. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about people with the right heart, or else these books are waste time. Yeah.
But what is the next step after that? What is the next?
Who on the panel would like to address that? Next steps.
Like the next step after you've written your manuscript? Well, it was different for me because...
Got one.
Yeah. Yeah. The difference for me was the publisher came to me. So I didn't have to look. And what was weird about that was everything I'd done for her before was in the Hawaiian language, which she doesn't speak. So she just trusted that it was okay. And then I realized when she asked me to write the biographies in English, she never read anything I'd written in English either. So she just took it on blind faith. So I was just very lucky to have a publisher who felt like I would be okay.
So it's, the answer is find a publisher.
I think so. Well, I mean, these guys have done self-publishing, which a lot of people do, but in my case, it fell into my lap, so I don't really know.
There's different, if you're writing for children, there's different resources out there. And one that I really believe in is Highlights for Children. The magazine, you remember from the dentist's office. First of all, they're still publishing, the magazine's out there. But they have their foundation, and you can pay for classes, but they've got videos online for free. And it's just amazing to hear some of these really prolific, well-known children's authors talk about their process, talk about how their first book got published, or illustrators. So I like to go there and just learn, again, from the videos they have available. And so that's just one resource, but, I love Highlights, so I kind of, I trust them, and they're really good.
So just to, just reaffirm what was said earlier, ask a group of friends. Cheryl was one of the guys that I asked as soon as her first book was done. I asked her, librarian, she reads a lot, to see what her feeling was. Of course I had, my best friend here, but the idea is just to find a group of people who will look at your book and is interested in what you have to say. They're not really interested, they're not going to enjoy it, and then you're going to just waste your time. So go for somebody that actually knows, a little bit about what you're writing about, and if they're interested in that kind of story. So look for those kind of people. And as for publishing, self-publishing, like I said, I went through Amazon. It wasn't easy, but there are tutorials and things that you can follow online on how to actually get through it. They have a whole list of things on kdb.com, whatever it is, to help you set up your books. As I understand, for publishing in the traditional way, you find an agent, the agent finds you an actual publisher to help you move your information. And of course, they're going to change whatever they need to change so that it can become marketable. But you know what I mean? If it's something that they're not interested in, it doesn't mean that nobody wants to read what you have. So just try. Keep going. Don't stop.
Should we hear from your wife too, as the editor, as a self-publishing editor?
Tell the
You have to do yourself too,
Yeah,
like
what
how do
else?
you go about it?
Yeah, basically, so while he was writing, after he finished every chapter, sometimes a paragraph, I'd read it aloud. And then he'd hear it, and I'd hear it, and then oh, no, wait, I gotta change that, or I have to change, and then, oh, wait, we need a period here, that doesn't make sense. So we'd go through that, for every book. And then after that, when he was satisfied, then I would read it again, make my changes, give it back to him, he'd read it again, make some more changes. We have some pictures of some of the books that have all these Post-it notes sticking everywhere. It's super fuzzy. But so just rereading it over and over, and then his sisters read it.
And they don't read.
Yeah, they don't read either. So it's basically just finding people who would like to read for you, and then making sure they understand that you actually want their feedback. Because some people, oh yeah, that's nice, and that's not helpful at all. But
Or they take the book and it's crickets.
oh yeah, they just take it away from you.
Thank you. This segues nicely into Best Press Publishing, who's here today with some books. I want to give you guys time to take a look at the books. She's also going to give away a drawing. You get to pick a book from the table. I'm going to call 3 people. So 3 people get a chance to walk away with a free book. Okay, who's the first person going to be, Gabe? Pick one. Pick a good one.
We're all
Pick a good number. Pick a good number. Oh, it's a name.
Melanie Honda.
Yay!
Is it Best Press? Okay, Judy, will you help me with one?
Oh, sure.
Ardith Chung.
And one more. Can you help me?
Oops. There's a name right there. My eyes are so bad. I think you need to.
Oh, it's someone who wrote in green. It is hard to read.
Is it in
Susan? Susan in green pen? Look at all this. Let's give our author panel a round of applause. I also want to thank all of you guys for coming. This is the first time I ventured out to do something like this. So it's nice to see you. We still have time. Please stay. Come up, meet the authors, check out the books. Gabe's in the back over there. Best Press is here. This would be your time to kind of talk story with them or make connections or get phone numbers or whatever you want to do. So, thank you very much.